It was a work trip, 3 nights at a mid-range hotel in a city I had never been to before. I had stayed in dozens of hotels over the years, never once had a problem. Hotels were comfortable to me, familiar. You check in, you find your room, you sleep, you leave. I checked in on a Monday evening around 7. The woman at the front desk was pleasant. She handed me my keycard and told me I was in room 214 on the 2nd floor. I took the elevator up, found my room, swiped the card, pushed the door open. The room looked exactly as expected. Standard double bed, desk by the window, bathroom to the left, TV mounted on the wall opposite the bed. The curtains were drawn. I found that slightly odd because housekeeping usually leaves them open. But I didn't think much of it. I dropped my bag, changed into comfortable clothes, ordered room service, watched TV until around 11. Then I turned everything off and went to sleep. I woke up at 2 a.m., not gradually, not from a dream, all at once, wide awake. The kind of waking up your body does when something has changed in the room without you knowing what it was. I lay completely still and listened. The room was dark. The curtains were still drawn. I could hear distant traffic from outside. The low hum of the air conditioning unit under the window. And then I heard breathing, not my own, slower than mine, coming from the corner of the room near the bathroom door. I reached slowly for the bedside lamp, turned it on. The room was empty. I checked the bathroom, empty. I checked the closet, empty. I looked under the bed, nothing. I stood in the middle of the room for a long time. The breathing was gone. Everything was exactly as I had left it. I told myself it was the air conditioning. Old hotel HVAC units push air through vents in ways that can sound almost like breathing if you're half asleep and disoriented. I turned the lamp off, went back to sleep. At 4 a.m., I woke up again, same way, all at once, wide awake. This time, the curtains were open. I had not opened them. I hadn't touched them since I arrived. They had been drawn when I checked in. I left them that way. There was no reason for them to be open, but they were. Both panels pulled fully to either side. The window behind them, showing the dark parking lot below, and standing in the parking lot, directly below my window, was a man, looking up, looking directly at my window. I stepped back immediately. I pressed myself against the wall, next to the curtains, where I couldn't be seen from outside. I stayed there for a long time. When I finally looked again, the man was gone. I called the front desk, told them what had happened. The curtains, the man in the parking lot, the breathing 2 hours earlier. The woman who answered was quiet for a moment. Then she told me she could move me to a different room if I preferred. I said yes, immediately. As I was gathering my things, I asked her if anything had ever happened in room 214 before. There was a pause that lasted slightly too long. She said she wasn't aware of anything specific. I moved to room 318. I slept with the lights on for the remaining 2 nights. When I checked out on Thursday morning, I mentioned the incident to the manager on duty. He listened politely, said he would look into it. Then he said something I have thought about every time I have stayed in a hotel since. He said that room has had a higher than average number of early checkout requests over the past 2 years. He didn't elaborate. I didn't ask him to. I travel alone for work fairly regularly, 6 years of it. I have developed all the habits that solo female travelers develop over time. I always request a room away from the elevator. I always check that the deadbolt works before unpacking. I always put the security latch on before going to sleep. I know the drill. None of it prepared me for what happened at the hotel in Cincinnati. It was a standard business hotel, clean, well-reviewed. The kind of place that hosts conferences and corporate retreats. I had stayed in places exactly like it dozens of times. My room was on the 4th floor. I did my usual checks when I arrived. Deadbolt working, security latch working, window locked. I unpacked, showered, settled in for the night. That was when I noticed the connecting door. It was set into the wall between my room and the room next door. Standard in hotels, a door that allows 2 adjacent rooms to open into a suite if needed. Both sides have to be unlocked for it to open. My side had a bolt and a latch, both engaged. The door wasn't going anywhere. I didn't think about it again. At midnight, I was still awake reading. That was when I heard it, a knock. From the connecting door, not loud, not aggressive. 3 soft, deliberate knocks, like someone who knew I was there and wanted to be let in without alerting anyone else. I sat completely still. I did not respond. 30 seconds of silence, then 3 more knocks. Slightly louder this time. I called the front desk immediately. Told them someone was knocking on my connecting door. The man who answered said he would send security up to check the adjacent room. While I waited, I kept watching the connecting door. The handle didn't move. No more knocking. Security arrived within 5 minutes. They checked the room next door. It was unoccupied. Nobody was there. The connecting door on that side was bolted from within that room. The security guard told me the room next door had been empty since the previous day. I asked him who would have bolted it from the inside if the room was empty. He didn't have an answer for that. I pushed the desk chair under the handle of the connecting door, kept every light in the room on, did not sleep that night. I checked out at 6 in the morning as soon as the front desk opened. I have requested rooms with no connecting door at every hotel I have stayed in since that night. Most hotels can accommodate that request without any issue. Some tell me they can't guarantee it. Those hotels I don't stay in. I worked the overnight front desk at a hotel for 2 years in my mid-20s. It sounds boring. Mostly it was. You check in late arrivals. You answer the phone. You deal with noise complaints. Most nights, nothing happens. I'm going to tell you about the night something happened. It was a Wednesday in November. Slow night. Maybe a third of the rooms occupied. My coworker Maria had gone on her break. I was alone at the desk when the phone rang. I answered. Standard greeting. Silence on the other end for a moment. Then a man's voice, low and flat. He asked me if his room was ready. I asked for his name to look up the reservation. He said, Room 108. Just that. Not his name. Room 108. I looked at the system. Room 108 was occupied. Checked in 2 days ago under the name David Carver. Checkout date was the following morning. I told him room 108 was already occupied. He said he knew. He said it was his room. I told him that according to our records, a guest named David Carver was checked into that room. There was a long pause. Then he said, I am David Carver. I looked at the system again. David Carver. Checked in Monday. Checkout Wednesday at 11 in the morning. It was now 2 a.m. Wednesday night going into Thursday. I told him checkout had been at 11 that morning. His reservation had ended. He said he hadn't checked out I told him our records showed the room had been cleaned and turned over that afternoon, that a new guest was checked into room 108 as of 3 p.m. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Someone is in my room." I told him a new guest was assigned to that room after his checkout time passed. He said he never left. I didn't know what to say to that. I asked him where he was calling from. He didn't answer. I asked him if he needed assistance. He didn't answer. The line went dead. I stood at the desk for a moment. Then I called Maria back from her break. Together we went to room 108. I knocked. The current guest answered, a businessman in his 50s who had checked in that afternoon. He had been asleep. He was annoyed. He confirmed he had been in the room since 3 p.m. and nothing unusual had happened. I apologized and we left. I checked the call log on the front desk phone when I got back. The call from the person claiming to be David Carver had come in at 2:17 a.m. It had originated from inside the hotel, from room 108. I pulled the room 108 call records for the past 48 hours. David Carver had made 3 calls from that room during his stay: Monday night, Tuesday morning, Tuesday night. The 2:17 a.m. call was the 4th. It came from room 108 at 2:17 a.m. on Wednesday night, 8 hours after the room had been cleaned and turned over, 5 hours after a new guest had checked in. I finished my shift, handed over to the morning team. I didn't tell them what had happened because I didn't know how to explain it. I quit that job 3 weeks later, not specifically because of that night, but I thought about that phone call every single shift after it happened. I still think about it now. Someone called from room 108 at 2:17 a.m. The room was occupied by a different guest, and whatever made that call said it had never left.